went around asking merchants if they were interested in a solution like this, and overwhelmingly got a positive response. And it was kind of so significant that everyone was like, oh, how can I install? I want to install it now. Like, I want to actually get started right now because this is a significant pain point that I have. And we at that point didn't have anything actually built. And so I had to, sort of fly home and then immediately we had to start production of the actual solution itself because nothing was built. It was really more about hypothesis testing, like I mentioned. So had to sort of make promises to merchants that, they didn't exactly have the solution built, but, over time it worked out and we got the solution built, and that's how we secured the first dozen or so merchants.
Welcome to Business with Purpose. I'm your host, Molly Stillman of Still Being Molly, and this show is all about bringing you the stories behind the brands, companies, and small businesses that are changing the world. Each week, I interview an entrepreneur, CEO, nonprofit director, community leader, or just an incredible person who's trying to make a positive impact, not only with their personal life, but also with their career. My goal is to show you that no matter what you do for a living, you can make an impact wherever you are. My guest this week is Dane Baker, the founder and CEO of EcoCart, which makes fighting climate change simple, cost-effective, and accessible for everyone. EcoCart has two products: a Shopify app that merchants can install into their online stores and give their customers the opportunity to make their orders carbon neutral, and a Google Chrome extension that calculates and offsets the carbon footprint of your online shopping orders at no cost to you. Previously, Dane set out to make the world a better place through entrepreneurial ventures such as limiting materialistic consumption and waste with a peer-to-peer rental marketplace and providing gig economy workers the wages and benefits they deserve with a first-of-its-kind gig economy employment platform. Dane was such a fun conversation. He is so cool. And what he is doing with EcoCart is so innovative. It's so unique. And I really loved hearing his story, just how everything works. You are going to absolutely love this conversation. But before I get to my chat with Dane, I want to thank our partner of the show, and that's Deux Mains. You know that I love to share the stories of brands that are changing the world. Now, in French, Deux Mains means two hands. Why two hands? Because everything they create is made by trained artisans who use their two hands to make their life better while crafting beautiful products. Truly, this is a company that has set out to change lives and make a positive impact in the world. It all started when the founder, Julie, wanted to create dignified jobs in Haiti, a place she was growing to love and that was exploding with creativity. She wanted to share this talent with the world. Julie set up an educational program to train people with artisan skills and then went on to build a factory that operates on 100% solar energy. Deux Mains now employs more than 40 artisans that handcraft premium leather goods, jewelry, and sandals. Their lives are forever changed by their craft. And what's cool is their products incorporate this eco-friendly twist, working with responsibly sourced materials and repurposed inner tube and tires in their designs. When you buy from Deux Mains, you get to be a part of a movement that is making a difference in the world while adding an incredibly well-made piece to your closet that supports conscious living. You can discover their products online at deuxmains.com, and I'll spell that out for you. It is DEUX as in like the French number two, deux, mains as in MAINS.com, and use the coupon code MOLLY for 15% off. Now onto my conversation with Dane Baker. Dane, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you here. How are you, my new friend?
I am fantastic, Molly. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited to connect with you. You know, it's funny that we are finally getting to connect because I have been kind of following your work with EcoCart for a while now. And honestly, I don't remember where or when I first came across the work you were doing, but I was like, man, that is it's just really innovative. And this could be something that is really incredible. So it's been kind of cool to kind of in the background, follow your work over the last, I don't even know if it's like year, 2 years, something like that. So I'm really interested to hear how it all got started. So Dane, give us the Dane 101. Tell us who you are, what you do, and how you got to where you are today.
Absolutely. No, and I appreciate that. I'm honored to be here. So thank you so much. And yeah, I mean, it's been a fun journey so far. We sort of, we started EcoCart really as kind of just, with a simple mission in mind to make the fight against climate change easy, affordable, and accessible so that everyone can do their part. And really kind of the way that that got started is my current co-founder and I were actually we were building a prior company, and it was an online peer-to-peer rental marketplace business. So think like Airbnb, but for surfboards, kayaks, snowboards, etc.
Yeah.
And we built the business really because we thought that renting, in contrast to consumption, was a greater benefit for the environment, especially high plastic items like kayaks and surfboards. And so it all kind of revolved around the circular economy. And that was the core reason we built the platform in the first place. Now, over time, it sort of became very complicated, expensive to maintain that sustainability rigor and ethos. And we tried everything. We tried to buy offsets ourselves. We tried to hire consultants to audit our supply chain and our operations, and everything was prohibitively expensive. And realized there was this gap in the market, this sort of need that needed to be fulfilled. And we sort of lived the problem ourselves to some extent. And then ultimately we sold the company, Toy Room, and then founded Ecocard, really based on this idea, right? And it was sort of seemed like a no-brainer in our mind, but to take a vehicle like a carbon offset, tie it to a carbon footprint of an e-commerce purchase, and then enable consumers to offset their own carbon footprint at the point of purchase. And that's really the crux of the solution. We are enabling what is sort of an unavoidably carbon emitting activity to be more sustainable in our own way. And that is through certified carbon offsets.
So for people that are like, okay, what is EcoCart? I don't understand it. All of that was complete German to me. This is the person that's listening. That's like, none of that makes any sense to me. Like, what exactly, if you were to introduce yourself or like have a conversation with somebody and you were to say all that and they were just kind of to look at you with like glassy eyes and be like, okay, so what is, I feel like the Bob's in Office Space. You ever seen that movie? When he's like, what would you say you do here? And like, how would you best explain it?
Yep. No, it's a great question. So we essentially enable a consumer in a few different ways. Enable a consumer to offset or sort of mitigate the carbon footprint of their e-commerce orders. And that, happens because we're able to calculate the carbon footprint of their order and then offer them at checkout the option to offset the negative that comes as a result of their e-commerce purchase. There's a significant carbon footprint that comes along with both shipping and manufacturing an item and order. And we enable the consumer the ability to simply, offset that negative emissions. And we do that, again, through certified carbon offset projects, which it's essentially a measurable reduction of CO2 from the atmosphere, but they come in the form of projects. And these projects can be, planting trees, building wind farms, sustainable agriculture, methane capture, projects like this that ultimately reduce the exact carbon footprint that a purchase has done to the world. And that is our solution in a nutshell.
So how do you even begin to calculate that? Like, so say I go to, let's just for, poops and giggles, say like I go to, e-commerce site, like I'm going to buy a new dress off of elegantees.com, one of my favorite ethical fashion brands. I'm like, oh, I got their spring line. I'm going to order that dress. There's an option for me at checkout to offset the purchase. How do you even begin to calculate the exact or approximate carbon footprint of my purchase of that Elegantees dress? And then how so I guess that's sort of the first question. And then on the flip side, how do you calculate the project that is the offset of that?
Yep. Great questions. So the first step here is we are taking into account a few factors at each e-commerce purchase, like shipping distance, package weight, product type, and then running that through our algorithm, which we built over probably a year or two in development. And this, takes into account these few factors, and then ultimately sort of the output is a carbon footprint in terms of, pounds of CO2, right? A measurable amount of CO2. And once you have that amount, then you're able to basically sort of translate that to a dollar amount or quantify it by way of a carbon offset project. And again, these carbon offset projects are just measurable reductions of CO2 from the atmosphere. And they come in the form of projects. And these projects are sort of bought and sold in dollars per ton. So it's a sort of quantifiable, purchasable, quote unquote, security that anyone is able to purchase, and that can be translated to an e-commerce transaction. And that's exactly what we're doing with our algorithm, and that all that happens in the background, but the sort of end output is a consumer sees, as they're about to go through and make a purchase, the option to make their order carbon neutral. And they just, click the box, or they, continue to go through and make the purchase with that brand, and their order will be offset.
Going back to maybe it's your childhood, maybe it's high school, maybe it's college. Like, do you see a thread throughout your life that has kind of led you? Like, did you always have like a very innovative entrepreneurial spirit? Or like, were you the kind of kid who like had the lemonade stand at the end of the driveway? Or like, were you mowing lawns? Like, what was the thing that you think kind of led you to have this kind of mindset that you have now?
Yeah, I think that I've always sort of, had an entrepreneurial spirit about me in some way, shape, or form. I had, my own version of a lemonade stand where I would go across the street to an avocado orchard for my house and pick a few avocados and go door to door and sell them when I was probably, I don't know, in 4th or 5th grade. And that was kind of how my sort of entrepreneurial mindset or spirit kind of manifested. And yeah, so I think I've always sort of thought about it that way, but more specifically, I've always thought about entrepreneurship as a great vehicle for change in the world. And I've always kind of thought about, if I'm going to do something, and I'm going to be able to make an impact on the world, and I have the potential to do so, I really want that to be a positive net benefit. And that's kind of the common thread among everything that I've done in the past. And so, like I mentioned, that e-commerce platform, or rather a peer-to-peer rental marketplace platform that kind of was revolved around the circular economy. Environment has always been the most pressing issue in my mind, and it's something that it's a really hard, tough problem to solve. But if you sort of rally the people and get everyone to sort of make incremental changes, it's something that can really snowball into big change and impact on the world. And so that's kind of how I thought about entrepreneurship, but climate specifically is just the opportunity to try to solve one of the, if not the biggest threat humanity has ever faced. And so that's kind of how I've thought about my particular experiences, and as it relates now to EcoCart.
Yeah. So once you decided, you sold the rental company and you decided to launch EcoCart, what did the early stages of launching something like this look like? Because, I mean, let's be honest, there's very few, if like anything out there in the market like it. And so it's so innovative. It's so unique. Where did you even think to begin? Like, were you just kind of like, okay, I've got this idea. Then how do we start?
Yeah, totally. So, it did start off as just, an idea, kind of like everyone, everyone has ideas, and then became more obsessed with it over time. And it was something that kind of was something I could never really, forget about. I was always thinking about it in some way. And so then that's kind of how we knew we wanted to get started. And so what we did to just kind of kick off that process is we wanted to sort of test the hypothesis a little bit and de-risk it so that we weren't, having to sort of, jump off and kind of dedicate a significant portion of our lives to something that, we didn't feel completely comfortable jumping into, and that, it wouldn't have been well received from the marketplace. And so what we did was, I flew to CES and I just kind of went booth to booth asking merchants if they would be interested in a solution like this, and just kind of market testing and serving merchants in, our particular target customer, which would be a brand that sells physical goods. And went around asking merchants if they were interested in a solution like this, and overwhelmingly got a positive response. And it was kind of so significant that everyone was like, oh, how can I install? I want to install it now. Like, I want to actually get started right now because this is a significant pain point that I have. And we at that point didn't have anything actually built. And so I had to, sort of fly home and then immediately we had to start production of the actual solution itself, because nothing was built. It was really more about hypothesis testing, like I mentioned. So had to sort of make promises to merchants that, they didn't exactly have the solution built, but, over time it worked out and we got the solution built, and that's how we secured the first dozen or so merchants.
And so once you began to build the platform, did you kind of run beta tests like with a few merchants at a time? Or did you just say like, all right, I think it's built. Let's do this. We got this. What did those early stages look like when you were actually beginning to roll it out?
Yeah. We definitely wanted to test as much as we possibly could. And so that involved, some pretty significant beta tests with a handful of our first initial customers. And the results were really promising. We were testing out some pretty, core KPIs and metrics that were important to merchants, and including things like cart conversion and adoption rate of that checkbox in their checkout flow, and very core important metrics and data points like this. And everything was overwhelmingly positive. We actually saw what we kind of initially thought could potentially be a negative result to cart conversion ended up actually being a really significant boost to cart conversion rates, which is a pretty pure data point in terms of how customers are, how excited they are about an option like this or a solution. And so this in and of itself was a great point of validation for us to continue on and actually go start selling this at scale versus, just the initial handful of beta test customers that we had initially.
For people that might not be familiar with the term cart conversion, what exactly is cart conversion, and why is it a metric that is important to e-commerce business owners?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. And, cart conversion is basically the number of sales that occur per, X number of site visits or, items added to cart, depending on how you're calculating it. So it's really a pure, way of looking at how many people are actually willing to purchase your item versus how many people intended to purchase it or came to your website to explore a purchase. And so the higher the cart conversion percentage, the better it is for the brand, because the more sales they have per number of site visits or number of items added to their cart. And so that's a pretty core, especially when you're dealing with an option or a feature within the checkout experience of a brand. It's a really important metric to look at, because you start to look at, does this particular feature, did it actually help the cart conversion? Are more people of my website actually interested in purchasing with me because of this particular feature or option? And that's the sort of end result of what we saw. It was the most sort of pure way of looking at the fact that and seeing proof that consumers were more likely to purchase with a brand because they offered a sustainable option at their checkout experience.
That's really interesting, because I love data. I'm always fascinated by data. And I guess considering what you do for a living, you probably also are very fascinated by data. But I'd be really curious to know how many people, go to a particular site, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a big site like Amazon, but just, a run of the mill kind of small business like an Elegant Tees or, just any type of site where you're buying goods. If it's a Shopify type brand, what the percentage of people is who maybe browse the site and even click add to cart and then never check out, and what those inhibitors are. Is it just they get to check out and then they see the shipping costs and then they just abandon it? Or I love those memes where it's spends $300 and then sees $4.99 shipping and they're like, nope, can't do it. What are the inhibitors to people checking out from there? Or what are the things that maybe encourage people to complete that purchase once they've added things to cart? I don't know. Do you have any experience or what kinds of things you've learned along the way around that kind of data?
Absolutely. No, I mean, it's an important question to ask, because there's so many factors that go into it. There's so many subtle nuances, and that's why as a method, A/B testing is such an important thing to do, because there can be even down to the color of a button or the placement of a button or the font, weight of a button itself can actually have a huge impact, a really significant impact on, something as core as cart conversion rates. It's just a lot of consumer psychology that goes into it. And that's, why we see our solution from a brand's perspective, but from a core value prop as, really showing your customers you care about the environment at the exact right moment and showing mission alignment at the exact right moment to help sort of push a consumer over the line and help them convert on a sale that may not have happened otherwise, just simply because the consumer now sees that their mission and their interests are aligned with the brand.
Okay. So I have two very, I would say significant core groups of listeners to this podcast. I have fellow entrepreneurs, e-commerce business owners, fair trade brand owners, people who are passionate about entrepreneurship and are in that type of space. And then I have obviously just people who are passionate, like who are consumers and are just passionate about supporting those types of businesses. So and then of course, entrepreneurs themselves are also consumers. So I want you to kind of speak to each group individually. First, let's talk to the consumers, because everybody falls under that category at some point. We all buy stuff. So guess what? We're all consumers. If I, as a consumer, or a listener as a consumer, comes to a e-commerce platform and they see EcoCart is a part built into it, what do you say to that person? Like, how, one, I guess the nitty gritty of like, they just kind of check a box. Does it cost them extra money? How does it work?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Great question.
And why they should do it, I guess, also.
Absolutely. So, we have two different, and here's where it gets a little bit confusing, is we have two different sides of the business today, all of which have this underlying, carbon offsetting calculation technology that underlie it. But there are two, distinct, I guess, use cases or form factors for how this shows up. So there's our direct partnerships with brands, where you're going through as a consumer and you see the EcoCart option as you're about to check out in their native checkout experience, just like a shipping option or an expedited shipping option would live in that checkout experience as well.
Right.
And so that, in that way, and so that's the first product we have. The second form factor for this technology is we have a consumer product that you as a consumer can install into your browser, just like Honey or Rakuten, that pops up and prompts you to make your order carbon neutral by clicking a button every time that you're shopping at one of our brand partners. We have brand partnerships with over 10,000 brands. And that, from a consumer perspective, is the option sort of for you as a consumer to actually, what was otherwise, only reserved for the brands that we have a direct API integration partnership with. Now, as a consumer, you can actually install this browser extension into your browser anywhere you're shopping online at over 10,000 of our brand partners. You can make your order carbon neutral. And so that is a significant value proposition for consumers, because they get to track and then offset the carbon footprint of their purchases over time, and not just at our direct brand integration partnerships, but really, at a pretty significant portion of stores across the internet. And that's a really, we're seeing, consumers really absolutely loving this solution, because they're starting to become intimately aware of the fact that their own consumer activity has a significant carbon footprint attached to it. And they can, with a click of a button at no cost to them whatsoever, with our consumer product, can actually offset that. And again, cost nothing is literally as a free extension you install into your browser, and it costs nothing to offset the carbon footprint of your orders each time that you do it as well. So it's a kind of a no-brainer of a feature for consumers to use.
So how does it cost nothing? Because that almost is like one of those things where it's like, does it really cost nothing? Like everything costs something, Dane. Tell me how that this is free.
Yeah. So with our consumer product, our brands. So again, the browser extension we're talking about. If you install into your browser, every time you're shopping at one of our brand partners that we're partnered with, we are paid a commission based off of your order from our brand partner. We have these, partnership agreements in place. They pay us a commission, a percentage of your order, that we use that exact commission. We use those funds to buy these certified carbon offsets or donate, quote unquote, to these projects that are earth-saving projects, and has that exact same sort of, end result from absorbing that CO2 from the atmosphere. And so that's simply the flow of money. It's the brand pays a commission, and we use that for earth-saving rewards.
I'm going to take a quick break from my conversation with Dane to thank our other partner of the show, and that is Mama Suds. Are you ready to ditch the bleach forever, but you can't find a bleach alternative that actually works? Well, you have got to meet this extra strength oxygen powder by Mama Suds. It launches next week, July 15th, and I actually had the chance to try it out early, and it is incredible. It is so great. As you know, my clothes get pretty dirty here on the farm, and they came out clean, white, no dirt marks, smelling amazing. This stuff is incredible. And as usual, there are multiple uses for this product. Not only is it a laundry booster and stain remover, but it is a great scouring agent on any non-porous surface. If you head to their website and sign up for the email list, you'll get an email with an early bird special coupon when the oxygen powder launches. Plus, you can stack on the coupon code Molly and get an extra 15% off. Extra 15% off. How awesome is that? So go to mamasuds.com, sign up for the email list. You'll get that coupon code for the early bird special for the extra strength oxygen powder. Use that coupon code Molly for an additional 15% off and you will be rolling. So good. All right, back to my conversation with Dane Baker. Now, talk to my business owners.
Yep.
My entrepreneurs. One, why should they partner with you? Two, how do they do that? And yeah, that's really the only two questions I had. I thought I maybe had a third one, and then I was like, no, that third one is actually just really a part of the first one.
Yep, absolutely. So at the end of the day, it's an API integration. So we have an API that plugs directly into your e-commerce platform, whether you're on Shopify, whether you're on BigCommerce, whether you're on a custom platform entirely. We have an API integration that, very simply just populates a checkbox at your checkout flow as a brand. So sits within your website, natively sits within your website, and enables your customer to offset their carbon footprint by adding a few extra cents to their order. And it's completely free for you as the brand. And the reason that that's the case is because the way that we as a platform make our money is with the transaction fee that's included in the price that the customer pays to offset their order. And so not only is it a free, frictionless solution, but you also get to show your customers you care about the environment as much as they do. So there's a lot of it's a big brand building exercise, which ultimately helps with some amazing benefits like increases in cart conversion rates. Our merchants, we're integrated into 1,000 brands today. And those merchants see on average about a 14% lift in cart conversion rates. And so, it's directly top line revenue impacting. And at the same time, it's a, free, frictionless, easy to set up plugin that plugs directly into your e-commerce store.
Okay. Because again, I love data. And I think that's really an interesting data point that it's a 14% increase in cart conversion when you have EcoCart integrated into your platform. Since you began this venture and obviously you had the idea for this and here you are, it's kind of been running for a little while. Is there anything along the way, whether it could be data points with the businesses themselves or with consumers or just in the actual offsetting of the carbon footprints, is there anything in particular that maybe has been surprising to you or just really interesting, like where you kind of went, like that's interesting, you know what I mean? Like you kind of had that kind of like, moment.
Yeah, I think the thing that surprised me most is the sheer percentage of consumers who click the box at checkout. When just given the option, they're going through checking out, they're not even really necessarily expecting to see a sustainable option at checkout, but the percentage of consumers that click the box, it's staggering. It's actually, it's on average 28%, which is, if you think about it, a little bit more than 1 in 4 shoppers on average who are just shopping online, sort of minding their own business, see this option at checkout, are like, this is cool. I am super interested in this option. I'm going to click this, add more to my order. Sometimes it's, 50 cents, sometimes it's $1.20, depending on, how carbon emitting that order is, but click that box to add more to their order to make it carbon neutral. And so that just kind of goes to show just like, how needed this solution is in the world.
That is really interesting. So, but to your point from what you were saying earlier, where there is, I guess, what's the difference between the free option and then the option where you're adding more dollars to your order?
Yeah, the difference, so one of which we actually have to have a direct partnership with the brand because we're integrating our API directly into their e-commerce store. So there's kind of a technical integration element that comes along.
See. Okay.
It has to be like, so we're selling directly to businesses and brands, right?
Right.
And e-commerce platforms. And the other side, it's actually it's a pure play consumer product where they just simply add the plugin to their browser and, as they're shopping online, it'll sort of pop up and prompt you to make your order carbon neutral. And so it's a different like distribution mechanism, but the end result is the same.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. So if you're a consumer listening, you should probably just integrate your EcoCart. Is it basically just like a browser extension?
Yep. You hop on over to ecocart.io. There's a sort of consumer tab or option. You just click and download the plugin. It takes probably 3 clicks and maybe 25 seconds.
Yeah. See, so easy. So easy. I really admire people like you, Dane, who come up with these types of solutions that are innovative. They solve a problem, they meet a need, and they do it in and not, this is like probably the worst, the way I'm like the sentence is terrible. But just like you do it in a really like not complicated way. Do you know what I mean? I feel like over the years, like the amount of people that I've interviewed and people that I've met at conferences and stuff over the last 10 years is just like, sometimes I'll meet people who like have really great ideas. And I'm just like, you are making this way too complicated, my friend. Like, have you met people? I love people. I think they're great. People don't want complicated. They want easy. They want easy. If it takes them more than 3 steps, like, no. I actually read a statistic not too long ago that was like, if you, in order to do something, if they have to click more than 2 to 3 times, like most people just like abandon it. And it's funny because I actually, my husband's best friend is totally like that. It's the kind of person, like, love him, but he's totally the kind of person who like, he'll just be like, how many times do I have to click on this? Like, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm like, are you so busy that you can't click through more than 3 times? You're just like, it is too much work.
Totally. No. And that you raised a really good point. And that's, again, like back to our mission of making the fight against climate change easy, affordable, and accessible. That's like those 3 pillars are how we like build product. It's like how we've built this entire company is with those 3 core pillars in mind, because it's so important. And, again, there's power in numbers and, enabling everyone to make a small change makes a big impact at the end of the day. And that's really our goal.
Yeah. All right, Dane. But before we go, I obviously could ask you like probably 50 more questions, but I won't because I'm going to keep it simple. But this is the portion of the show where I just get to ask a couple fun get to know you questions. So, Dane,
let's do it. Yes.
Are you ready for the get to know you round?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Question number 1. If you could win a medal, because it's the Olympics this summer, Lord willing, we'll see. I feel like at this point, I'm just like, anything could happen. Who knows? But Olympics this summer, if you could win a medal for any sport now, real or fake, what would it be?
Wow. That's a good question. Okay. My gut tells me, because I'm assuming this is a speed round, my gut tells me a triathlon.
Oh,
and
I like
if that even is an Olympic sport, I'm not entirely sure if it is or not, but if it is, and it might be,
I think so.
I would choose that because I like trying to be as versatile as possible. And, swimming, biking, running, those 3 things, you have to be pretty athletic to do. And if I were to, want to win something, I think it'd probably be that.
My, back when I had a day job many years ago, my old boss, Gary Kay, shout out to Gary. If Gary's listening, Gary is a triathlete, and he did the Escape from Alcatraz triathlon, where like you have to like swim from Alcatraz Island and then to the shore and then like bajillion mile bike ride and then like full marathon. And I was just like, I have no desire to do that personally. I did a half marathon. I used to be a runner. My knees, not so much anymore. But I did a half marathon back in 2010. And after I finished it, I was like, I will never do that again. That was miserable. So to like swim that much, bike that much, and then be like, I'm going to do a full marathon. Nope, that's going to be a hard pass for me. Anyway, but I think you could do it. All right. What was the best vacation you ever took?
Ooh, best vacation. Now
that we're all, like, people are traveling again.
Yes. Okay. My best vacation. I went on two come to mind, but I'll choose one. I went to Cancun with my entire family.
Oh, that's fun.
And that was awesome because I was with my entire family, grandma included, like the whole like
love it.
Yeah. And it was great. So
grandma's eating guac, doing margarita, like tequila shots by the bar. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the fun part about it. So I'd say that just because the whole family was involved.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. What is something I would never guess about you?
Ooh, okay. Let's see. First thing that comes to mind is I used to do Taekwondo as a kid, and I'm a black belt in Taekwondo.
Well, hello. Remind me to never meet you in a dark alley, or remind me to have you with me if I'm for some reason in a dark alley. So
there you go. That's even better.
Okay. And then my last question is, Dane, what does it mean to you to run a business with purpose?
Wow, that is the best question yet. What does it mean to me? It's a very, very important thing. Again, all of my sort of, work experiences, professional experiences in some way or another have all sort of been around, making an impact in some way, shape, or form. And I think that, work as like a construct, like takes up, like a significant portion of life. And if what you're doing isn't in some way either making you incredibly happy or making others happy or better in some way, shape, or form, then I think it's a missed opportunity. And so that's kind of how I've personally thought about my own energy, effort, and experiences. And when you're thinking about something as significant in your life as work, which, to most is a very, very significant portion, I like to sort of take that and make an impact at it, leverage my own effort and energy and try to make others better in some way, shape, or form.
Awesome. Dane, this has been fantastic. For everybody listening, if you're a business owner, entrepreneur, you want to partner with EcoCart, go to ecocart.io. You can get set up there. If you're a consumer, which all of us are, don't tell me that you don't buy stuff because I'll be like, well, you lying. If you go to ecocart.io, you can install the free browser extension. Super easy to offset your carbon footprint when you're buying stuff online. So you're helping businesses, helping the planet. So it's all good. And then at the end, you get like whatever cool stuff you ordered coming to your house. Dane, thank you so much for being here. This was really awesome.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
I would love to know what you loved about this episode or if there was something that you learned. If you do, let me know on social media. You can find me at Still Being Molly or at Business with Purpose Podcast on Instagram or Facebook. And don't forget to use the hashtag Business with Purpose Podcast. Another thank you to our partner of the show, Mama Suds. Don't forget to use that code MOLLY for 15% off and shop at mamasuds.com. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. If you're a first-time listener of the show, welcome. Be sure to visit the archives for past shows featuring incredible entrepreneurs and business owners who are quite literally changing the world with their businesses. And if you're a regular listener, thank you for tuning in and week out, and thank you for your support. Be sure to head on over to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Radio Public, or basically wherever you listen to podcasts and click that subscribe or follow button to make sure you never miss a new episode of the show. And while you're there, would you take a moment to leave a review? Leaving a review of the show helps me to know what you're liking and how the show is personally impacting you. This show is produced by the incredible team at Third Wheel Media. Thank you so much for listening, and go do something good with purpose on purpose.